I was just telling Ildiko that Sean can't make it, Don can't make it, Elizabeth can't make it. I just got back from 2 weeks gone myself, so it's a busy time of the year.
It is, yeah. And next week,
The
some of us
UN.
will be at the UN week,
Hmm.
the United Nations Open Source Week, and then the following week we are in Denver.
Yep.
It's a slow time of the year.
Yeah, I know it's a. I can't. I'm not going to be at either of those. Are you going to either of them, Georg?
Yes, I will be at both.
Okay, fun.
Yep.
Well, we can talk. I do want to get kind of just a little bit of update on that. So, the first is, now that you're here, I was going to go through this, but did you want to make a comment at all on this at all? I like the conversation. It's great.
Yeah, the maintainer activity metric came out of conversation with Jordan Harbant, who is a maintainer for a lot of the JavaScript libraries in NPM,
Okay.
in the NPM package manager. And he says many of them he doesn't work on. And so all of the activity metrics that we have are meaningless. They will just show these are dead projects. But he is available when something does come up. And so the proposal is knowing who the maintainer is
Hmm.
and then making sure they are still active and available, that they are monitoring. Basically, the assumption is they're monitoring when issues are raised, pull requests are issued, vulnerabilities are found, whatever happens, that they can
Okay.
jump in and take care of business.
Okay. So it sounds like the general premise is just reading this and listening to you. A lot of these are complete. They don't need a whole lot of action around them. I'm guessing a lot of these don't have really big communities. You
No,
know, they were kind of written and made available. Um, okay. Why wouldn't, I guess when you were talking, why wouldn't something like those response time metrics that we have be useful?
because there are issues that he leaves open on purpose as a signal that, hey, someone already thought of this idea. You don't need to bring it up yet again,
Okay.
because it's out of scope or hasn't been finally decided or it's unsolvable or whatever reason. So yes, there's a response, he reacts to it, but then there may not be any activity at all. So if we only look at the response time for the issues in the last 2 years, there may not be an issue.
Okay. So how are you able to kind of, what's your proposal to cut through that and try to understand that somebody is available?
The metric is to see what the maintainer's activity across other open source projects are.
Oh, okay.
So it's not activity in the project that we're looking at.
Hmm.
It is identifying who the maintainer is. And now with ecosystems, my understanding is Andrew is putting a pretty good guess together at who the maintainers are of every package based on who is publishing to the package manager, who is closing issues there. So that is one data source we could be using.
Okay.
And once we know who the maintainer is, then we see what is their activity on GitHub, on other platforms
Huh.
in general. And if they are still active in open source, then the maintainer activity is positive.
Okay. So it's the maintainer activity kind of across open source. I'm not suggesting a title change at this moment, but
Yes.
okay. Ildiko, do you have a comment?
I'm thinking I'm thinking. I thought I so I think I'm just processing it. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but like are we saying that the value of this metric is to be able to say that someone who is listed as a maintainer in one project that seems inactive, or well, it's complete, or from the outside world, excuse me, it seems inactive, but we want to see if that person who is a maintainer is an active either maintainer or contributor in the overall open source ecosystem. And somehow that would say something for the project that is complete slash looking inactive.
Yes.
That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a different case from a project that is abandoned and no one pays attention to it. The contributor maintainers moved on, where that would not be a good signal.
But
So
I mean, just because the person is active elsewhere, how does that imply anything? Or what does that imply to the project where they where we don't know whether or not they are active anymore? They could have moved on from that project still.
yeah,
So I don't see the strong correlation, I guess, right now. But again, I'm just processing the
Okay,
information that I just received.
that was good. Georg, do you have a comment?
I don't have a solution for that. It is a caveat that we can certainly point to, that just looking at the data itself may not be enough. There may be a,
What about somehow including response time for that project where they do appear inactive? So it's kind of a twofold thing. So Georg, you're the maintainer on a project that appears inactive, you know, at a distance, but you're clearly still doing open sourcey kind of things out in the world. So that's one. And it's like an and every time something is posted in that project where you appear inactive, you do hop on it right away.
yeah, I'm taking notes.
Okay.
At
Ildiko, does
that
that help
point,
a little bit? Oh, go ahead,
at,
Ildiko.
at that point, if you look at the response time, I do wonder again what the added information of the person being active completely elsewhere, what value does it add?
Fair.
Because to me, it sounds a little bit like stalking people and then and then trying to, come to conclusions from that a little bit.
Right.
But we can't for the particular project where they don't seem to be very active.
Right.
So I don't see, if you look into the entire ecosystem, what the person's activity in the overall ecosystem has to do with a particular project.
Okay.
My challenge is
What
I just I don't understand what the value of that is, of
what
that
if it was
information
in
there.
we're getting kind of complex here, but what if it was in um projects that were that had a dependency, had some sort of relationship? So like the project that I'm in, or the scenario that I was giving, Georg is the maintainer, and he appears to be inactive in that project, but he's super active in a lot of the upstream dependencies.
I mean, that still doesn't guarantee technically that he will go back to that
You're
project that
correct.
all those things are dependent on and will do anything.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of a way to like maybe strengthen that somehow, but maybe not.
I'm still taking notes. I like what you're all saying. This is good feedback.
Are you putting it in this issue?
I decided to start writing in the meeting minutes because that
Oh,
way you can see it while I'm writing. If
oh,
I put
right
it in
on.
the
Okay.
issue, then you will only see it once I post it. So I'll copy it from the meeting minutes into the issue later.
I didn't have this tab up, so I didn't see you doing that.
Yeah, I started writing in the issue and then I thought, you don't see this. There's no collaboration. So Google
Totally.
Doc it is.
Well, I didn't see it anyway because I didn't have the tab open, but now I do see it.
Okay, there was the last idea was
Dependency stuff.
how about activity and projects that depend on the focal project?
I understand Ildico's point, like trying to, if you're going to look across the ecosystem, like actually trying to define value in that look somehow, because at the outset, it doesn't appear that it exists.
I
Yeah.
think like I think Georg, you put the metric into Slack too, and I apologies, didn't have the chance to look at it in the description, but from maintainer activity my brain went to maintainer activity in a particular project where the person is the maintainer. So we are kind of talking about the exact opposite for the metric. So I think my brain is just kind of trying to make sense of this like 180 scope shift of what I thought it was versus how it is described now in terms of what it is supposed to be.
Okay. That is a very good feedback. The naming is misleading. So if we were to give it a descriptive name, we could do maintainer availability on an otherwise inactive project,
Yeah.
judged by activity in other open source projects. It's not
Very
a
great
name.
title. It's like you're writing a paper.
I mean, I still have a challenge seeing how how the overall activity suggests information about availability for a particular project. To me, I don't like what is the correlation there that we could make in a like stable, consistent manner. Because
Yeah.
at this point, like if the person is very active everywhere else, I would judge by the incentive that they probably don't have bandwidth for the project that they seem inactive in.
Hmm.
That's the only conclusion I might be able to say that I'm most comfortable with deriving from that information.
Which, which I think the way you're describing it is like the opposite the way the metric was originally set up. That being,
Yes.
you're saying that being active across a lot of other things could actually be a detriment to that focal project.
Again, that's the
Yeah.
most consistent assumption that I could make, but it is still an assumption.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah. I'd invited Jordan to join us on this call. Unfortunately, he isn't here because I would be very interested to hear what his his explanation, because he speaks from experiences different than my secondhand
Sure. That's always,
related.
yep.
Yeah, I think I understand the challenge of, his activity in a project that is not actively developed, but rather actively maintained as a mature piece of library, software, big, small, whatever project it is. So I understand the challenge. what I currently don't see is how the currently suggested metric is helping with that.
Yep.
I currently don't understand that.
Yeah.
Maybe he can respond in the issue. That would be helpful, and we could bring it back again next week. I'm like Ildiko. I really like the like distinction it's trying to make between an inactive project, you know what I mean, or one that should just archived, nothing's gonna happen, versus one that looks inactive but in fact is not. I like that distinction.
I mean, if there was a metric that would be like the maintainer is reachable through the project's communication platform, or if there's a request there, the maintainer will respond in some amount of time. Don't even need to put a time limit on it. So something that shows that the maintainer is present in the project, but in the project's context and not everywhere else in the open source ecosystem. To me, that could be something that helps me, understand that that project is not dead. Is there any note in the project repo saying that this is a mature piece of software, which is, currently in a maintenance phase? Um,
Oh,
you
sure.
know, we came up with a production maintenance phase for one of our less active projects, which is rather having maintenance activities happening in the repos as opposed to active development.
Mhm.
Like, is the project marked clearly as something like that? Because that can signal to people that, hey, someone is still looking at this if there's an issue, but otherwise there's not much happening, and that's okay. That's how it is. And
Yep.
people are aware, and that's how it is supposed to be. And if anyone wants to develop it further, then they can take it up with the maintainer who's there
Yep.
somewhere.
I like that. Something in the README.
That makes a lot of sense. That could be the distinguishing signal to what is the intention or the cause for inactivity. Being
Mhm.
clear about, hey, we've reached a point where there's no more activity needed. It's actively monitored. If you need something, here's the maintainer, reach out to them.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then, as the second level of confidence, we add this maintainer activity in other projects to see, are they still active in general? Can we still reach them? Then it's a good combination of those two pieces of information that give us strong confidence that I'm okay using this software.
Mhm.
I would still add the maintainer presence in the project. Like, if people were able to reach the maintainer in the context of that project based on the information that was there. Like, if there's a communication channel, did it work? If it's if hopefully it's a public channel, and it's so the data is available for that. So trying to keep the most things in the project's context as
Mhm.
much as we can, because the maintainer can still be around even if they are not active anywhere else. It Like, the other way around doesn't suggest that they are not available anymore or
Mhm.
not reachable, because that will be very person specific, like
Yeah.
depending on the person.
Sorry, I need to step away. Someone rang my doorbell. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Um, Thanks, Ildiko. Those are good comments. Um, all right. Let's see. Arinyenka, Munifred. Hi, Callie. Any comments on on what you've been listening into? We're all good. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm just listening. Don't have a lot of brain power today.
no sweat. Um, I'm just back from 2 weeks away, so my brain power is also low. All right. I think the only other thing on the agenda is just, I think all of you know that there are a bunch of events coming up. Um, Ildiko had mentioned that you're going to Denver.
Yes.
Georg is going to both. I'm going to neither. So sounds like some of you will be just catching up there. I hope it's a nice time. There is a data science get together. Not quite sure if it's before or after. So Chan has been kind of working to organize some of that. Callie, I think you're part of that as well. The data science stuff at OSSNA, I'm guessing.
Yes, it's happening before CHAOSScon,
Okay.
so in the morning.
Oh, it's on the same day. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that should be fun. I'm looking forward to hearing back. And I think there's been a lot of nice effort for helping people. Data science workshop. For helping people connect with data science work that may not have data science like high-end skills. So just kind of showing people not only high-end data science work, but also just how you can think about data and the challenges that come with even data cleaning. All right, cool. Thank you. June 26th. Very good. All right. Honestly, that's it for today. I think that was all that was on the list. I'm glad we got to talk about this metric. I had been seeing it come across my notifications for a little while here. And I'm glad I got a verbal catch up on it. So that was really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was great. All right.
One thing
Yeah.
for the upcoming events, the United Nations Open Source Week and Open Source Summit and the Data Science Workshop and CHAOSScon, for those who are going, I will be asking to record a podcast episode with reflections. So at some point in the near future, I'll see who I run into at these events, and then we'll set up a podcast episode about them.
Okay.
There's a
How are
lot going on in these 2 weeks.
okay.
And last year, the open source, the United Nations all had, it wasn't the open source week yet. That's new this year. Last year, it was just the OSPOS for Good with one fringe event. This year, it's multiple fringe events the whole week. And last year, one of the outcomes or impact on CHAOSS was that we started a working group. So it'll be interesting to reflect back on what has happened in the last year and where things are this year.
And that working group is still going quite well.
Yeah.
Is OSPO for Good, is that still part of this? Is that still the organizing center?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
They have two main events or 2 days with main events, and one of them is the OSPOS for Good, and the other one is, I think, from the Digital Impact Alliance.
Okay. So each one's kind of taking a day.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I haven't really looked at this whole schedule. I know it was a big success last year. Like I think a lot of people walked away and were kind of surprised how many people were there and how much conversation there was. So I'll be interested to see how it goes this year again. Were you there last year, Georg?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
And I think they really listened to the feedback based on the schedule that I'm seeing. Because last year it was the whole time presentations
I do
in the
remember
main
that.
program.
Yeah.
And this time there are more breakout sessions.
Yeah. I remember that from last year that was one of the big takeaways, like more room to talk with people and like connect in the hallway kind of thing and meet
Yeah.
in small groups. Well, that's nice that they did that. All right, cool. Garrett, do you need to talk about anything? I can stop this, but just with CHAOSScon or anything that I know you've been kind of working on that kind of stuff.
The
In this
schedule is put
right?
together. We're waiting for, yeah,